Hello students, so in our previous modules we've discussed about motion, and you'd be surprised to know that this motion, it can be of different types. As here you can see that a car, it is moving on a straight road, in a straight line. So what do we call such type of motion? Well, when the objects, they move along a straight line, then this type of motion, it is called as rectilinear motion. Right? Now students, can you think of some more examples from your daily life or from your surroundings where the object, it undergoes the straight line motion or the rectilinear motion? Well, when I drop this ball from a certain height, then what kind of motion is this? Yes, this is also an example of rectilinear motion, as the ball, it falls under the influence of gravity and it moves along a straight path in a vertical direction. Similar is the case with an apple which is falling down from a tree. And in this case as well, the apple, it is in rectilinear motion and it falls under the influence of gravity. So now let's take some more examples to understand the different types of motion. Now I'm sure you all must have seen the march past of the soldiers in a parade. And that's on the occasion of our Republic Day celebrations on 26th of January. So you all have seen that on your television sets? Okay, just have a look at the movement of these soldiers. So this parade is moving along a rectilinear path, or in other words, we can say that the soldiers, they are in a rectilinear motion. Now similar is the case when the lift, it moves up or down, or when the sprinters in a 100-meter race, they move along a straight track, then both these kinds of motions, they are also examples of rectilinear motion. So this is all about the rectilinear motion. Now besides this type of motion, can we think of some other types of motions as well? Okay, let's explore it out together now. Well, I'm sure you all would have enjoyed the giant wheel ride. And if not, then it's time to visit an amusement park and go for a giant wheel ride. And I'm sure you would definitely love this ride. So students, if you carefully look, then you can see that this amusement ride, it consists of a rotating circular platform with seats for each rider. And if we focus on one particular rider, then you can see that he's moving along a circular path and he comes back to the exact place from where he had started. So what do you think? Which type of motion is this? And is it correct to call this motion a rectilinear motion? Well, we've studied that a rectilinear motion is a type of motion where the objects, they move along a straight line. And do we see any straight line motion taking place here? Well, in this example, you can see that the rider, he's not moving in a straight line. Instead, he's moving in a circular path where the distance of each rider from the hub of the wheel, it remains the same. Thus, this type of motion has a special name which is known as circular motion. Now let's understand more about this motion by doing a simple activity. So here I've got an eraser which is tied to an inextensible thread. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to whirl it. And you just have to observe the motion of the eraser. So what do you observe here? Well, we can see here that the eraser, it moves around a circular path. And the distance of the eraser at each point from my hand, it remains nearly the same. Thus, the eraser is exhibiting a circular motion. So you can see here it is exhibiting a circular motion. Now I'm sure many of you would be thinking that what causes a body to move in a circular path, just like this eraser was moving in a circular path. Well, it is so because the centripetal force which is acting on the eraser, it keeps it into the circular motion. So when an eraser, it moves in a circular path with a constant speed, then its direction changes at every point. And what happens when the direction changes without a change in the magnitude? Well, we simply say that the object is accelerated. So in this case, the eraser here is accelerated because the change in the direction involves a change in velocity. So students, from the Newton's second law of motion, the force acting on an object is equal to the mass of the object times its acceleration. So now as the eraser here, it possesses some mass, and the force which causes this acceleration, it keeps the eraser moving along the circular path. And this force is known as centripetal force. So now where does the centripetal force actually act? Well, this acts towards the center of the thread eraser assembly, and it causes the eraser to deviate from its straight line path, accelerate inwards, and then move along the circular path just like it is moving here. So from where does the centripetal force comes into action? Well, the centripetal force, it is provided by the hand when we are whirling the eraser. And now due to inertia, which is nothing but the tendency of an object to maintain its state of rest or of motion, like in this case, at every point of the circular path, the body tends to move along the tangent to the circular path at that point. Now what happens if this thread, if it breaks? Well, if the thread breaks, then the eraser, it flies off along a straight line. And the straight line will always be a tangent to the circular path. Now you may ask that why does it always follow a straight line path? Well, it is so because when the thread it breaks, the centripetal force is no longer provided by the string or the thread that we are holding in our hand. Thus, the eraser, it moves in a straight line tangential to the circular path. Now, can you give me some more examples of circular motion from your daily life? Okay, so just carefully observe the movements of blades of this fan here and the hands of the clock here. And if you just mark a point anywhere on the blades of a fan, or let's say in the case of the clock, then you can see that the distance of this point from the center of the fan or from the center of the clock, it will remain the same as each of them rotates. Now the motion of a point marked on the blade of a fan or on the hands of a clock, they're nothing but examples of circular motion. Similarly, the motion of a satellite around the Earth, it is also an example of circular motion. And how is it classified as a circular motion? Or what causes or exerts the centripetal force in this case? So here, the gravitational force between the Earth and the satellite, it provides the necessary centripetal force which keeps the satellite in a circular motion around the Earth. So till now we have discussed about the rectilinear motion and the circular motion. Now we are going to discuss about one more type of motion, and that is periodic motion. So students, by the name itself, what do you understand by this term periodic motion? Well, when an object, it repeats its motion after equal intervals of time, then an object is said to be in periodic motion. Now let's explore this type of motion by taking a few examples. So again here I am going to take the thread and the eraser assembly that we had taken earlier, and now I hold it like this. Now if I move the eraser to one side with my other hand and let it go, then it keeps on moving in this way, and it will go over and over again. So this makes our simple pendulum. And what do we call such type of motion which the eraser is exhibiting here? Yes, this type of motion is known as periodic motion. Now more about this type of motion we will study in our next module. So with this I end this module, and in our next module we are going to explore more about each type of motion.